You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this edition of the show, we're going to be looking ahead to Arsenal's FA Cup tie with Newcastle United scheduled to take place on Saturday evening. Of course, the Gunners kicking off their FA Cup campaign, a trophy that belongs to us. We're defending our crown once again. Mikel Arteta led the team to another FA Cup, a record 14th FA Cup at the back end of last season. So can Arsenal defend it this time around? We're going to be discussing that game. We're going to be looking ahead to that game. I'll be sharing with you guys my prediction and, of course, my preferred starting lineup. We're also going to be talking about the return to fitness of Thomas Partey and various other bits and pieces. And, of course, we'll be taking your comments and thoughts from the live chat. First of all, I want to start off by thanking you guys for subscribing to the channel. We said yesterday on the live shows that we wanted to have a little bit of a subscriber drive to get over that 11,000 mark. And I can say that we did that, which means yesterday alone, we must have gained about 120 subscribers, which is incredible. So I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's subscribed, everybody who's new to the channel, and of course to those of you who have been here from the early days and continue to support the show at every opportunity. So a big thank you to every single one of you for all your help and support. Right, let's look ahead to the game between Arsenal and Newcastle United. Of course, it kicks off on Saturday evening, 5:30 at the Emirates Stadium, and Arsenal go into the back of this off of the back of 3 straight wins. Newcastle United, though, haven't won in their last 6. So Newcastle United not in great form. Steve Bruce coming under a little bit of pressure. There's a lot of Newcastle fans out there who are not enjoying watching their team under Steve Bruce, don't feel necessarily that he's the right man to take them forward. And I guess from a Newcastle perspective, this season must be a real anticlimax because, you know, they were linked with the takeover. It looked like the takeover was going to go through. It looked like they were going to have an influx of top quality players. They were going to have some serious investment in the football club. And all of a sudden, none of it happened. None of it materialized. And then they've gone from sort of being linked with Mauricio Pochettino and Kylian Mbappe and Neymar and, you know, top names in the world game. Obviously, those reports were over the top. Obviously, those reports were a little bit premature. But to go from that to now be in a position where you're watching Steve Bruce every week manage this team, you're watching kind of negative football, boring football, you can understand why a lot of the Newcastle fans have grown frustrated by what they're seeing. Arsenal, of course, as I mentioned, FA Cup holders, and we kick off our campaign this season with not the most difficult tie in the world, but it is a tie that is a lot harder than some of the others. You know, Spurs play Marine, who are a non-league side. You've got Man United taking on Watford, you know, and Arsenal end up with a Premier League team, which, you know, isn't ideal. As I said, it's not the most difficult game in the world. You know, it could have been worse. Could have had Man United away, could have had Tottenham away or something like that. But just having to meet a Premier League team at this early stage feels like a bit of a bummer. And the reason I say that is because there are so many games at the moment. The fixtures are coming thick and fast. Arsenal, in my opinion, need to give some players a breather. An FA Cup tie against a minnow would have probably allowed Mikel Arteta to pick some of the fringe players and give them an opportunity to maybe play their way back into form. And we're going to touch on the ones I mean when I go into my predicted 11. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Arsenal have won 4 straight league games against Newcastle United. So, of course, we're in good form against Manchester United, against Newcastle United. But the last meeting in the FA Cup between the two sides came in 2008. Arsenal won 3-0 that day. and progressed to the 5th round. So we met them in the 4th round that time. This time it's the 3rd round. So pretty similar though, early stage of the cup. Arsenal take on Newcastle United. Let's say a big hello before we continue to those of you joining us in the live chat. Big hello to David, to Omar, to Talal, to Louis, and to John, who says, still got your hair then, Harry. Do you know what? I just haven't got round to doing it. I just haven't got round to shaving it off. I still don't know if I'm going to shave off my hair. The beard is definitely going though. You know what? I might do it after this stream. Let's see. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, let's get back on track. Let's continue the focus on the game between Arsenal and Newcastle United at the weekend. Now, of course, I was saying to some people the other day that, you know, football right now, although there's a lot of uncertainty around it, you know, we've heard that Aston Villa have closed down their training ground. You know, we've heard of an increased number of positive tests in and around the Premier League. So it's going to be, for me, like it's worrying, and you do wonder whether football is going to have to go into some sort of pause, some sort of temporary break. And with each development, you feel like we're edging that little bit closer. I know that at the moment, the Premier League and the FA have satisfied the government that they are taking the right approach, that they are taking the relevant precautions, and that's why the game's been allowed to continue. But, you know, it just feels like with every event that happens, every sort of bit of news we hear about positive COVID test, training grounds being closed down, you feel as though we're edging ever closer to the shutdown of football again. And I mean, as I said, for our mental health, I don't know what we would do. You know, and it probably sounds a little bit stupid because there are people out there who really suffer, and I probably sound like a bit of an idiot talking about the fact that I think the lack of football would affect me. But I really think it would. It gives me something to look forward to. It gives me work to do. At the end of the day, when you can't go anywhere, when you can't see anyone, it's very much become even more so than before the center of my world. So I can't. I don't know what I would do if it stopped. But as I say, fingers crossed it doesn't get to that. But I have to say I am getting more and more concerned, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say on it in the live chat, because am I just being a little bit negative? Am I being a little bit pessimistic? Am I one of the only people feeling this way? I'd like to know what you guys are thinking as well with regards to the continuation of football, of the Premier League, and the game in general during this really weird and difficult time. Just a quick reminder as well, before I go on to share with you my starting 11 for the game against Newcastle United. I put a poll out yesterday on the channel. So if you are a YouTube user, head over to the channel, click the community tab at the top, and you'll find a poll, which if I could ask you to please vote on and leave a comment, I'd be very, very grateful. Just doing some research with regards to how we're going to take this channel forward. And some of the enhancements that I want to make. So I'd love to get your feedback and your thoughts. So please, if you are a viewer, head over to the YouTube, click on the community tab, and give us a vote and a bit of feedback so we can understand what you guys are feeling and where you guys are at with the whole thing. Let's go through some more of your comments, and then I'll share my lineup. I feel like I'm keeping you waiting, but there you go. Jordan Koniecka says, would you play the likes of Aziz? Need to win to keep the momentum going. I agree that we need to win, Jordan. I'm not sure I would start Miguel Aziz. I don't think I'm not going to say he's not talented enough, because he certainly looks like a talented young individual, but I don't think he's played enough football yet for me to consider him as part of my starting lineup. I don't know if I'd put him on the bench either. I was going to say I'd put him on the bench, and then mid, you know, as I was about to say it, mid-flow, I changed my mind. Because when you see the side that I am going to pick, and you might agree with it, you might disagree with it, I feel like it is a side where you're going to need to have some firepower from the bench, where you're going to need to have a number of senior players that you can call upon if things are not going your way. I know that we need to keep the momentum going. I agree with you that another win would be key in doing that, but I really do feel like the FA Cup is a lot further down our priority list this season than ever, because of the number of games that we're having to play, because of the fact that, you know, the Europa League and the Premier League are more important in terms of what they can give us at the end of the campaign. I really, really feel like the FA Cup this season, although it's ours and I want to see us defend it, I feel like given the condensed nature of this season, the number of games we're having to play in a short space of time, I think it's going to be more difficult now to prioritise the FA Cup. And so I would make a number of changes, and those changes will mean that I would have to include some of the more regular starters on the substitutes bench. So there may not be space for somebody like Miguel Aziz in my team. But that is my team. I have to stress that. It's not what I know Mikel's going to do. It's not even necessarily exactly the team I think Mikel's going to pick, but it's what I would pick going into tomorrow's game. Just a quick look at what some of you guys are saying with regards to the potential of football shutting down again. John P says lockdown is bad enough. To lose football again will be a nightmare. Agreed. He also says another 3 months of talking about nothing but transfers. Yeah, agreed. And it was tough last time, and I really don't want to have that again. Big hello to Ekene Ogbodo says he's liked the video. Thank you so much, mate. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button. It is very, very much appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Louis says it would affect me a lot. I suffer tremendously bad from mental health, but I'm glad your videos get me through it and make me happy. Thank you so much, mate. And keep your head up. Keep focused. Keep yourself busy. And I'm really delighted that the videos and the podcast are helping people in some way out there. So thank you so much for that. Lots of questions about Willian, Saka, Balogun. Let me share with you guys my team. And then we can come on to talk about some of those discussions and some of those individuals. So here is my team that I would pick to face Newcastle United in the FA Cup on Saturday. Now there may be some shocks here. You may raise your eyebrows with some of these selections, but this is what I would go with. So let me run through it for those of you listening to us on the audio. I'd go with Runarsson in goal. Alex Runarsson for me isn't good enough. I worry about him. I do think that we made a bit of a mistake bringing him in. I feel like he's not quite good enough to be, where were we having this discussion? We were having it on the, I think, Curtis Shaw's channel. Check out Curtis Shaw's channel, by the way. You previously had goalkeepers at Arsenal. For example, let's take into account let's take it using as an example, the situation when we had Bernd Leno and Petr Cech. You had two goalkeepers there who you would say were both good enough actually to play in the first team. There wasn't a tremendous gap in quality between the two. And so you could have one Premier League goalkeeper and one cup competition goalkeeper. Since the departure of Emi Martinez and Alex Runarsson coming in, that is no longer the case for me. We've got two goalkeepers who, in terms of their ability, I think, are quite a fair way apart. So Bernd Leno for me is very much the number one. And I think in Mikel Arteta's eyes, that's how he sees it. I don't think Mikel sees it the way Wenger used to, the way Emery used to. One goalkeeper for one competition, one goalkeeper for another. I think in the view of Mikel Arteta, Bernd Leno is 150% the number one. And Runarsson will play when Leno's unavailable and he's got no choice, or the opposition is extremely weak and he feels like he can get away with it. I'm not saying that Newcastle United are extremely weak. At the end of the day, they are a Premier League side and they still have a number of decent players. The issue here is that what happens if something happens to Bernd Leno? We'd be completely screwed. And I'm just at a point now where I don't want to take a risk. I don't want to take a risk. And I wouldn't be confident watching Runarsson in goal, particularly if Newcastle decide to go long and chuck Andy Carroll on at some stage in the game and play that way. Runarsson doesn't fill me with any confidence whatsoever. But just because of, as I said, the number of games we've got coming up and the risk of something potentially happening to Bernd Leno in a competition that for me is nowhere near the top of our priority list right now, I would play Runarsson. So that's my view. That's the justification for it. That's the rationale. At centre-back, I'd go with David Luiz. Obviously, back available David Luiz after illness. And I think it'll just be good to give some of the other boys a rest. And, of course, David Luiz is a competent centre-back. And I'd select him alongside Gabriel. Now, Rob Holding and Pablo Mari have done brilliantly in the Premier League of late. And I expect that pairing to continue until one of them puts a foot wrong. That's how I would handle it as a manager, because I think you should be in the team on form or merit Not sure that Mikel will see it that way. I'll be surprised if Gabriel actually doesn't come back into the Premier League team immediately. That's how good I think he's been this season. But for me personally, I would play Gabriel. He's been out for a few weeks. He's obviously tested positive for COVID. Apparently, he feels fine and he's not unwell, or he wasn't unwell. But having had COVID, I know that it can really suck a lot of energy out of you. We've heard other footballers talking about the fact that it can take its toll on you. Providing Gabriel is okay, I think it would be wise to give him a bit of a run out here against Newcastle United. It's a game in which I expect Arsenal to have most of the ball. I don't expect him to have to work particularly hard. And I feel like it would be a good game to start to get Gabriel back into match sharpness, back into match fitness, and then eventually blended back into that Premier League team when Mikel Arteta sees fit. At right back, I would play Cedric, give Hector Bellerin a rest. I think Hector Bellerin's been quite good lately. I know there are a lot of Arsenal fans out there that don't like him, a lot of Arsenal fans that are sick and tired of the sight of him, but I think he's done okay lately. And I don't think Cedric is incompetent. I actually think Cedric is a pretty decent fullback himself. And so for me, I'd bring Cedric into the side and I wouldn't be too worried about that one. It's an opportunity for him to get some minutes, an opportunity to give Hector Bellerin a rest without, I'm not going to say without lowering the quality we have at right back, because I still feel that Bellerin is a slight level above, but without lowering it so much that I think it will have an impact on the result. So Cedric comes in at right back for me. At left back, I'd go with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Now, I know a lot of people will say actually Maitland-Niles as a left back doesn't really work. He's better as a wing back on whichever side it is he's playing, because obviously, as he keeps reminding us, he's a midfielder by nature. But for me, having let Symeou Kolasinac go, who would have been in my team here, by the way, had he still been an Arsenal player. But Symeou Kolasinac having gone, we don't really have another backup left back. I don't want to see Bukayo Saka play there. And I'm desperate to see Kieran Tierney given a rest. So Ainsley Maitland-Niles comes in at left back for me. Granit Xhaka comes into the centre of midfield. Some of you will probably wonder why I've gone with him. I've gone with Granit Xhaka because he did serve that 3-match suspension, which means he's played a lot less football than some of the other midfielders in recent times. I think he's got it in him. Granit Xhaka, quite reliable in terms of his fitness, has been since the day he arrived at Arsenal, actually. For all the other criticisms you can level at him, being available is not one. Or being unavailable, is not one of those things. I think he's done great in that sense, and I'd bring Granit Xhaka into the side, provide a little bit of a screen, a little bit of a shield to that back four, go receive the ball off them. Granit Xhaka would be in that side for me, alongside Mohamed Elneny. Now, of course, Thomas Partey is back available. We've been told that he's been training, that he's feeling good, he's not feeling the injury, but we were told that last time with Thomas Partey, and I would not be taking any risks by starting Thomas Partey on Saturday. I'd probably like to see him come on for 15-20 minutes towards the end if the game state allows that, in order to get him sort of up to speed a little bit ahead of our next Premier League game. But I wouldn't be starting Thomas Partey from the beginning here. I think we've got to learn our lesson from what happened when he came on, or when he started the game against Tottenham after a period out. It just completely backfired, blew up in our faces, and I don't want to see that happen again. So for me, Xhaka will partner Mohamed Elneny. Again, Emile Smith-Rowe, some of you will call for Emile Smith-Rowe to start, but again, I've got concerns over Emile Smith-Rowe's fitness. He is one of the players who is most susceptible to breaking down, in my opinion, and he is somebody who's had injury problems on and off throughout the course of this season. So I'd give Emile Smith-Rowe a break. He's been so key to upturning performances with regards to the Premier League. I want to see him rested, and I want to see Joe Willock given an opportunity. Joe Willock, when he's been given opportunities in the cup competitions this season, most notably in the Europa League, he's taken them. He's been really, really good. He's worked hard. He gets up and amongst the forwards, and I'd like to see Joe Willock starting in that kind of number 10 position, advanced midfield position, whatever you want to call it. On the two flanks, I'd go with Nicolas Pepe. I spoke about it a little bit on yesterday's show. With regards to Nicolas Pepe, he is somebody who just needs to try and play his way into form. It's a problem because I don't think that, given the way he's currently performing, Mikel Arteta can necessarily go, yep, Nico, you're going to play the next 7 or 8 games without fail, and I'll give you an opportunity to play your way back into form. The rest of the team has not been good enough around him to allow you to carry a passenger, someone who's nowhere near the top of their game at the moment. So Nicolas Pepe would start for me. This is an opportunity against the side who are going to defend, for him to try and prove his worth to the manager. It's another opportunity for Pepe to stake a claim for a place in this starting 11. So Nicolas Pepe will start on one flank for me. And on the other side, I'd go with Willian, another player who I think desperately needs to play his way back into form. The alternative options to Willian would be a Gabriel Martinelli, but I want to see him given a rest. Another player who's been out for such a long time. There is no way that I would be taking risks on Gabriel Martinelli right now. I know he's got to build up fitness. I think he's played a lot more football since returning than Mikel Arteta would have hoped. That's been out of a little bit of desperation on Arsenal's part. So I want to see Gabriel Martinelli given a break. I want to see Emile Smith-Rowe given a break. I want to see Bukayo Saka given a break, who would be another alternative candidate to play in that position. And so I'm going to go with Willian, another player who needs to improve his form, another player who needs to contribute something to win some of the fans over. So that would be my 2 wingers, Pepe and Willian. And up top, I'd go with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for the same reasons I've said about somebody like Nicolas Pepe. I think that there's a case to be made that in our next Premier League game, Gabriel Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, Alexander Lacazette and Emile Smith-Rowe should be that front 4. I don't think that'll be the case, because I think that obviously Mikel Arteta is very loyal to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, went out on a limb to make sure that he kept him at the club, did a lot to try and make that deal happen. Having done that, there is a loyalty there from Mikel Arteta, and I expect Aubameyang to be shoehorned into that side somewhere. But as I was saying with Pepe, as I was saying with Willian, this is a player who is in desperate need of getting back on the score sheet, silencing some of his critics, getting back into the habit of scoring goals. And I think this game provides Aubameyang with an opportunity to do that. So I'd play Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. On my substitutes bench, though, I'd have your Rob Holdings, your Pablo Maris, your Bernd Leno's, your Thomas Partey's, your Emile Smith-Rowe's, your Gabriel Martinelli's, your Bukayo Saka's. I'd go really strong on the bench because, as I say, we're playing against Premier League opposition. There are absolutely no guarantees whatsoever. And so for that reason, I want to see a strong bench so that if things do go south at some point, Mikel Arteta will have the ability to change things. Right, don't forget, if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on my my preferred starting 11 for the FA Cup tie against Newcastle United this weekend. Now, you may agree, you may disagree. Let me know in the chat. I'll leave it up on the screen for a little bit so you guys can bear it in mind and let me know what it is you think with regards to the team. Let's see what some of you guys are saying now with regards to the starting lineup. Louis Robson says, should Martinelli start tomorrow or should we give Nelson a go? I think we would start both and Willock. Nelson has been experiencing some injury problems. So I'm not 100% sure that he's available. I think he is, but I think that it's very clear in Mikel Arteta's mind that actually Reiss Nelson is not a part of his immediate plans. And whether you agree with that or not is a completely different debate. But I just feel like in Mikel Arteta's mind, Reiss Nelson is not there. He's not ready. And I think in Mikel Arteta's mind, Willian and Pepe are both ahead of Nelson in the pecking order. Again, not saying that's right. It's just what I believe Mikel Arteta's stance and viewpoint to be. And so I'd expect those two to be given the nod ahead of him. Could be wrong, but that's just kind of my hunch. A few of you asking whether it would be wise to start Bukayo Saka. Definitely not for me. I think he needs a break again. He's another young player who's played way too much football lately, and I'm worried about him breaking down, burning out maybe a little bit like Jack Wilshere did in his Arsenal career. I don't want to see that happen to Bukayo Saka, so I'd give him a break. Talal says, do you think William would start? Yes, I do. As I've put him in the side, you'll see there. I'm sure you put that comment beforehand, but there you go. just going back to the whole bit about football, maybe having to take a little bit of a break again, whether that's a sensible option. Top Techer says, hope football can carry on. The percentage of players who tested positive is really low in comparison to society. They are in a safe bubble, and if safe enough, football needs to continue. I agree it needs to continue, but we've seen an uprising in cases in football because players broke the rules over the Christmas period. That's the problem. That is the problem. Abostelis says, I would start Nelson, to be honest. Yeah, and I think a lot of people probably share that opinion. I think a lot of people probably agree with that. I'm not dead against that. I'm just going by what we've seen previously. And in my opinion, based on what we've seen previously, it doesn't feel as though Mikel Arteta sees Reiss Nelson as someone that he can rely on, someone he can turn to. He's had very limited minutes, mostly in the Europa League against the Minnows. Had some injury troubles we're led to believe over the last few weeks and not really played a part. Again, I wouldn't be against Nelson starting ahead of either of those two wingers. It's just what I am guessing. Kind of what I'm guessing, kind of what I do. It's a bit of both. To be honest. Counterpoint says, I would give Partey some minutes because we have a tough run of fixtures coming up from early February. We need to integrate Partey before that. I think Partey will start the next Premier League game. I think he has to. I think he's so key, so important. When you go spend £45 million on a player, it's because you see him as someone ready to come into your side instantly and do a job. I think he's very much his first choice. I'm just wary of him breaking down again. I think Arsenal rushed him back way too quickly last time. Obviously, it's easy to say that in hindsight, but it feels like having suffered that setback again with Thomas Partey, actually, let's give him a little bit of a breather and bring him on last 15, 20 minutes if the game state allows that. What else are you guys saying? Lots of you actually calling for Reiss Nelson to play. Lots of you sort of being impressed with his performances, sort of in the Europa League in particular. Some of you calling for him to play in that number 10 role. That's not a bad option either. Didn't think of that. It's not a bad option. And I wouldn't be dead against that if I'm honest. Let's see what else we've got here in terms of your comments. Dave Atkinson says, why would you give Martinelli a rest? He has not played for a week and a half. I think he needs match time. I'd rather have Martinelli available for the game in the Premier League because I think he really sets the tone in terms of the energy he brings to the forward line. I'd rather he played 90 minutes in the Premier League if it was me. I'm not necessarily saying that Mikel would do that, but if it was me, I would give Martinelli that little bit more of a breather and use him in the Premier League game. Look, at the end of the day, I totally get where you're coming from, Dave. You do need minutes, don't you, to get up to your full sharpness, but he's been out for the best part of 6 months, and the nature of Martinelli's injury is one I've suffered, and maybe it's because I've suffered an ACL injury that I maybe feel the way I do about it, but it is something that takes a long time to get over, not just physically, but mentally. I think you worry about going into certain challenges. I think you think twice about things. There will be a weakness there now, no doubt. And I just wonder if we're kind of putting a little bit too much pressure on Gabriel Martinelli. I know he's been really good since he's come back. I know he's made things happen. I know he brings, as I said, the energy and really sets the tone. If I could, I only want him to play one of the next 2 games, and I would prefer that he played in the Premier League one. I guess that's kind of my way of looking at it. But, it's a fair shout. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there, Dave, that agree with you, who feel that Gabriel Martinelli should have more minutes. And that's the way he's going to get back to his best as quick as possible. Giovanni says, would start Leno. And I'm sure a lot of Arsenal fans would. A lot of Arsenal fans out there are probably worried about the prospect of Runarsson playing in goal. Again, maybe I'm just being too risk averse. Maybe I'm just too worried about the potential of something happening to Bernd Leno and us ending up having to play Runarsson week in, week out. No doubt that Bernd Leno is our number one. And although I've gone with Runarsson in my starting 11, I wouldn't be surprised if Mikel went with Bernd Leno. Given what I was saying earlier on, I don't think that he's got a cup goalkeeper and a league goalkeeper like some of our previous managers have. I very much believe that in Mikel Arteta's case, it is Bernd Leno is my number one, and that's that. And when he's fit and when he's available, unless I know I can get away with it, he will play. Let's see what some of the rest of you are saying. A few calls for Balogun to play. Now, here's where I stand on the Balogun thing. If he's not going to commit his future to Arsenal Football Club, if he is going to leave in the summer on a free transfer, if there's been no breakthrough with regards to his future, and if the suggestion is there that he's going to be leaving the club, you don't play him. It's as simple as that. Why prevent somebody else getting the much needed minutes? Why prevent somebody else developing for a player who is no longer going to be with you come the end of the season? So it totally depends on what's going on behind the scenes with regards to following Balogun. Is he going to sign? Is he close to signing? Does he actually want to sign? Because as I was saying on one of the recent podcasts, ultimately the agent works for the player. And there's been a lot of people saying, the player wants to stay, the manager wants him to stay, but the agent doesn't. Well, the agent doesn't dictate where you go. The agent works for the player. And so if the player is desperate to stay, then he instructs his agent to do the deal. That's how it works. So I'm a little bit confused as to whether actually the player does want to stay. Whether Mikel Arteta is just saying that, I don't know. But yeah, like I said, look, if he is committed to Arsenal Football Club, and it's just a case of agreeing the terms and crossing the I's and dotting the T's, then fine, involve him. But if he's not, if he's destined for the exit door, then I wouldn't be playing him and I wouldn't have him anywhere near the team. That's just my view on it. Miltos says, good luck for your match, guys, from a Portsmouth fan. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Omar's put his team in here. Leno, Cedric, Luis, Gabriel, Maitland-Niles, Partey, El Neni, Martinelli, Willian, Pepe, Balogun. So that's his team. What do you think, Harry? What differences have we got? We've got different goalkeeper. You've gone Partey and El Neni in the midfield. I've gone Xhaka, El Neni. You've gone Martinelli, Willian and Pepe with Balogun. I've gone Aubameyang. So yeah, a few differences, but that's not a bad side. Not a bad side at all. What else have we got? Lots of you calling for Martinelli to start. People talking about maybe the fact that he needs the game time. I'd give him some minutes. I wouldn't like to see him play all 90 though. And again, look, if we were talking about, Gabriel Martinelli having suffered a hamstring injury or something like that, or a groin injury that kept him out for 3-4 weeks, I totally get where you're coming from. I don't know. Maybe I overestimate the impact that an ACL injury has because I didn't get the Arsenal standard treatment. Maybe that's why. I say that. Maybe that's why I feel that way. But for me, it was a big problem for a long time. So I'm just wary of that. And I'm also wary of not just the physical bit when it comes to Gabriel Martinelli. I'm also worried about Gabriel Martinelli mentally. I don't want there to be this major pressure on him to deliver every single week and to be our hero and to be our saviour. Because there are much more experienced players in that front line. There's Alexander Lacazette, there's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, there's Willian who's been there, seen it, done it. The pressure should be on those players and the youngsters should be a supporting cast. It's completely flipped in the last few weeks though, and it's been the other way around. And I'm not sure how to look at that, because on the one hand, the added responsibility can be something that players can thrive on. And on the other hand, it can be pressure that weighs people down. So, it's a really difficult one. And French Beats official says, I'd play Pepe on the right because he's left-footed. Yeah, you could swap that around. Pepe and Willian, however the manager sees fit. Right. Let's go for a prediction. We're going to go with a prediction. How do I see this one going? I'm going to go with an Arsenal win 2-0. And I'm going to go with Arsenal 2, Newcastle United 0. That's going to be my prediction for the game. Let me know your predictions in the chat as well, and I will get through some of those. I'll read some of those out just before we lock off today's live show. Talawa Shaw says, how'd you get the ACL injury, if you don't mind me asking? Playing football, unfortunately, Talaw. Ball came to me in the air. I must have been at the time, oh God, I must have been 26 years old, 25, 26 years old, 26 years old, I think. And I, in my mind, still thought I was 18. Tried to jump up in the air and take the ball down with my with my left foot. And as I did that and I landed on AstroTurf, I sort of hit the ground with my right foot. My foot got stuck. My knee gave way. My kneecap moved out of place and my ACL went. I literally felt a snap at the time. It was a horrible, horrible injury. I looked down at my knee and it was all over the shop. A horrible, horrible injury, which stemmed from me at 26 years old, still thinking in my head that I was 18 and not being quite as fit as I should have been. But yeah, it's a horrible, horrible injury. And maybe that plays a part in my view on it and how long it actually takes to recover from it fully. There you go. This is a really interesting question, actually, before I go on to the predictions. John P says, do you think the loan we took out shows the club thinks the game is getting shut down again? You know what? That is an interesting point. I don't know for sure, but it's a really, really good question, John. Really, really good question. Because my understanding of the loan is that it's a loan to help assist with the cash flow issues at the club, given that they're losing so much revenue at the moment. Was watching Charles Watts' video earlier on, and he gave a little bit more insight onto it. Says that the club predict they're going to lose approximately 200 million in match day revenue by the time they can get some fans, or they predict they'll be able to get some fans back in the stadiums. Spurs took this loan. The FA themselves took this loan from the Bank of England, and Arsenal become the third major footballing institution to do so. And Charles Watts put it quite bluntly. He just said the club are out of money. And this highlights the difficulty that the game in general is facing. Now, it's an interesting point. Maybe they haven't done it because they think that the game is getting shut down, because then I think a lot of clubs might have gone for it. But perhaps they're doing it as a bit of a contingency, as a bit of a backup, just in case that is the situation. Now, it's £120 million and it's got to be paid back by May 2021. So it's not a long-term loan by any means. Perhaps Arsenal are going to take it, use it to help run the costs, but also have it as a little bit of a backup just in case things do go south again and the game is forced to stop. If that is the case, then they would have that reserve there. Yes, of course, it's a loan and you've still got to pay it back. But, it's an interesting one. Really good point, though, from John. And, it could be that Arsenal are, if not convinced that the game's going to stop again, at least fearful of it. And maybe that is why they have done what they've done with regards to that. We've got a couple of Newcastle United fans in the chat. Charlie says, we're going to effing smash you up the mags. Yeah, good luck with that, Charlie. I think I've watched 3 Newcastle games this season, and I think I've fallen asleep in all of them. Horrible football team to watch right now, but I'm sure you agree with that. But I wouldn't be so confident if I was you guys. Charlie says 3-1 Newcastle. No chance. John P says 1-0 to the Arsenal. Wolfzone, another Newcastle fan in the chat, says, hi, as a Newcastle United fan, I want to say good luck. Thank you very much. Xander is very optimistic and feels Arsenal are going to win by 5-1. Louis Robson goes 3-0 or 4-0. Aditya predicts 2-1 Arsenal. French Beats Official predicts a 1-1. Patrick Carlson says 1-1. Talau says 3-0 to the Arsenal. What else have we got here? Just trying to pick up a few more. Omar's gone with a 2-0 Arsenal win. Prince has gone 2-0 to the Arsenal. Ajinki has gone 2-0 to the Arsenal. Ben Taylor says 2-0. Willock and Pepe. Abdiral says 2-1. Tevin Royes 2-1. Martin Ross 3-0 to the Arsenal. And then he's gone 5-0. Make your mind up, mate. So lots of Arsenal fans feeling confident about this one. A lot of 2-1s in there and quite a few heavy wins predicted as well. Fingers crossed it is the heavy win and Arsenal book their place in the fourth round of this season's FA Cup. It's our competition. We're not going to give it up without a fight. Right, that brings me to the end of this live show. Come and join me again if you're watching us live right now at 4:30, where I'll be joined by a very special guest. I'm not going to reveal who it is just yet, but he's a very special guest. He's someone who covers the Arsenal very, very closely. I'm sure every single one of you follows him on Twitter. Every single one of you follows his work. He's going to be joining me at 4:30 p.m. on another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner. Until then, take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Cheers.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.